All right, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. This is Coca Sexton with Inside View. Thank you for joining today's Social Selling Your Pipeline with Hot Prospects. Today we have a guest speaker, one of the original faculty members of Social Selling University, Joanne Black. She helps many companies, Inside View included, on how to leverage referral selling and to leverage the connections that you already have to get inside the accounts that you're really trying to penetrate and get some deals with. She is the author of a book, best-selling book, no less, called No More Cold Calling. We're going to go through a couple housekeeping items, and then we're going to open it up to Joanne. Joanne, are you there?
I'm here, Coca.
Outstanding. All right. Just for everybody that's on the call to know, we have a couple other webinars being scheduled, so stay tuned for some information on these. We have Social Talk on May 10th, which is a live Q&A format with Social Selling University. This is going to be the second one that we've done. The first was probably, 2 weeks ago? And it was actually phenomenal. We had over half a dozen phone calls that came in. It was really engaging. We got to answer a lot of questions from some customers of ours, people that are just in attendance at Social Selling University that wanted to understand how to leverage social media within their sales environment. After that, on the 16th, we have another webinar with a guest speaker, Adam Metz, called Selling at the Point of Need. We also have Social Selling University, which is a website dedicated to helping salespeople understand how to leverage social media and new tools to get your jobs done. We have a facelift being done on the site. This is not what it looks like currently if you go there, but I just wanted to give a preview to everybody on the call to what's coming. This is going to be a very content-rich site that's going to help out a lot of salespeople internally. At Inside View, this is one of the things that we really wanted to develop and then make it public to everybody, customers and prospects and everybody out there, helping salespeople understand as salespeople. One last thing, because we have a live format on these calls, you're free to ask questions in many different ways. You can ask them into the chat box, which will be in your console for GoToWebinar. I believe it's on the bottom right-hand side with our guest speakers or myself. So there's a button on your console. It looks like a little hand. Just feel free to click that. And what else? When we see it, we will interrupt and we will get your question on the air. So with that, I'm going to hand control over to Joanne.
Okay, just 1 second here, and we'll get going. Here we go. Well, thank you, Coca, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're talking about how to pack your pipeline with only hot prospects. Wouldn't that be great if that's all we had in our pipeline? Well, I like to pretend like we're all in the same room, even though we're not. But this is pretty much what I look like. I'm Joanne Black, so you can relate to me and ask tons of questions. I'm here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And as Coca said, I wrote the book on referral selling called No More Cold Calling. And that leads us to our agenda. Aggressive, I want you to ask questions. We're going to have an interactive conversation. So what we're going to do is you will learn how to convert more than 50% of your prospects to clients. Double your sales footprint in 90 days. Wouldn't it be great if we really could reduce our prospecting time? You'll learn the 5 steps to build your referral business and how to almost slash your marketing budget to zero. So we're going to be talking about referrals. This is what Inside View and I have promised that you will take away from our session. So I want to check in with you now, and Coca will launch a poll. I want to know if you're in the right place to learn about referrals. So Coca, if you could launch our first poll and just check in, because sometimes people think that this is going to be like different than about referrals. So I want it to be clear. So let's vote. Are you in the right place to learn about referrals? Yes, you are. No, you're not. Or you know what? I'm not sure. So let's vote. Let's vote. How are we doing on the responses, Coco?
Looks like they're still coming in.
Okay, should be pretty easy. I think once we get to 70%, we can do like a 5-second countdown and close the poll. This one's pretty easy. Some of the other ones we're going to do might take a little more time.
There we go.
Okay.
Looks like the results are, yes, 94% of the people. 6%, how did you get here? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You got 6% of the people that aren't in the right place.
Well, you know what? The thing is that they may not be sure, or they may just be curious. So for those of you who said, no, you're not in the right place, you can leave or you can stay, and maybe you'll learn something new and intriguing in your sales process. One of the things I want to make sure everybody does is be sure to check the follow-up email you'll be receiving, because we have a special gift for you. It's my ebook about how to make referral selling work for you. And I know sometimes we skim over those things, but be sure to check it out.
And this is going to get sent out to all the attendees. Is that right, Joanne?
That's correct. Everybody who registered and everybody who's attending today. So that's my gift to you is like a follow-up reinforcement piece on what we're talking about today. Now, I'm going to share many of my points of view with you. And I do that because clients say that's why they pay me, right? So I have been selling and managing sales teams for well over 30 years. So I do have definite points of view about sales. The sales landscape has changed. We all know that. We cannot continue to work the same way. So you have a choice. You can follow everybody who's going in one direction, or you can carve your own path. So I encourage you throughout this webinar, in everything we're talking about, to keep an open mind. That's the most important thing. Keep that open mind. Because what we're going to be doing, and this is the concept, is how do you, in fact, expand your referral work? How do you tap in to people? So say you know this person here. I'm going to call this Coca. Now, you don't know who Coca knows, but you want to tap into somebody he knows here, here, here. Oh, maybe he even knows a couple people here. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be continuing to expand our referral network. And you know what? It doesn't matter where we are in the world anymore. And I know on this call we have people from all over the world. Coca shared that with me. Everybody knows somebody. Any place.
Yeah, we have a couple people from Europe, and I think a few from Australia. I mean, this is really interesting to see that we have a global community here.
We do, and we just know people. So, and we're connected in different ways than we used to be connected. Just because somebody's not in our geography doesn't mean that they can't be in our referral network. In fact, they should be. So just a little data here from a consumer standpoint that applies to us in B2B sales. You're probably familiar with this. 90% of consumers trust peers and less than 10% trust an unknown source. And I want to show this graph may be a little tricky to view, but the point is here that people trust recommendations from people they know, 90%. Consumer opinions online, brand websites. When you go down here about emails, ads, search engines, videos, text, these are the things that cost money, but they're not getting the results because the results are up here in the things that don't cost money, recommendations from people we know. So let's tap into you now and find out your biggest sales challenge, because I want the rest of our time together to address what they are. I've chosen 5, and let's see. The first is a challenge for you getting the meeting at the level that counts. That means with your decision maker, with the person who can say yes. Is it, and some people tell me this, that, you know, I just have too many unqualified leads. Is it that I do get the meeting, Joanne, I got that, but converting those prospects to customers is a really tough one. Is it overcoming objections? Or is it that, you know what, your competitor has a lower price, you know, you're viewed as a commodity, you're always getting into those price wars. So Coca, if you could launch the second poll about Everybody vote. What
All right.
is your biggest sales challenge? Let's get that going.
Is it getting to the meeting at the level that counts, which I would think is really a big one? A little typo and too many qualified leads. What are the biggest challenges for all of you?
Yeah. I mean, there's people who answer very differently in all of this, and that's fine because it's personal. And I'm asking people to make a choice because maybe all of these are challenges for you. But pick the one that's like looming. That's your biggest one. And so how are we doing?
We're doing all right. The answer's still coming in. We've got about 75% of the people that have answered. Currently in the lead is getting meetings at the level that counts. Looks like that's about it.
Okay. Let's show the results.
Look at that. 44% of the people said that getting the meeting at the level that counts is the biggest issue that they face as a salesperson.
And what was the second, Koga?
Converting prospects and customers, 25%. And then in third place would be too many unqualified leads.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure this is all too familiar.
That gets into the whole sales and marketing thing. But, you know, we know what that's about. Okay, I think you can hide the results now. Perfect. So what we're going to do in the balance of our time is address those two biggest issues. And here's my point of view, that generating qualified leads, qualified, I'm going to underline that, highlight it, do as much as you want, bolded. That's the most important step in your sales process. And it's also one of the ones that is most ignored. And here's why. So there's a lot of lead generation activities that go out there. You know, we're going to get lists. People come to your website. There's marketing automation. There's marketing that gives you leads. They're marketing qualified leads. Sales has to accept them as sales qualified leads. Do we? Well, you know, that's a whole separate conversation. Downloads and blogs. I mean, these are all things we do for lead gen. And that's fine. We can continue to do these. Except that, however, you know, that's not, how do we know they're qualified? Because someone visits your website or downloads a white paper, that doesn't mean they're qualified. They may be interested, they may be curious, they may be your competition checking you out. We are the ones who can qualify our leads. So I said, you know, no, those are not the resources that we want to look at. That we as salespeople and sales executives must generate our own qualified leads. Now, where does this come from?
Joanne, you know, even speaking, you know, from a marketing, if I put my marketing hat on, you know, most companies are. I mean, this is how they're making their money, right? It's outbound sales is really generating a lot of the revenue. Would you agree?
What, the marketing leads or the ones we generate?
No, the ones that the salespeople are actually responsible for. I mean, this
yes.
is.
Yeah, but here's the perception, and I've done quite a bit of research on this, Coca, and actually interviewed about 30 sales executives for my next book. And everyone, almost to the person, said, you know, we get really good leads from marketing, but our salespeople aren't leveraging their relationships to generate their own leads. So we are in somewhat of an entitlement time frame. When, oh yeah, marketing, give me stuff, give me stuff, give me stuff. Right?
Absolutely.
And, you know, they're not, and so we're spending our time calling all these people who may not be qualified. I get these calls. I get them because I've been on a website downloading a white paper. I'm not their candidate. I tell them that because one salesperson to another, I don't want them to waste their time. We need to take responsibility for generating our own qualified leads.
Absolutely,
So,
and I think most salespeople understand, you know, marketing is, yeah, I understand the entitlement piece. I see that with many companies. But great salespeople understand that. You know, everything they get from marketing is really the gravy, but you have to work for it. You have to leverage these connections. You have to leverage every resource you have available to you as a salesperson to get your own deals. And then everything that marketing is handing to you really just should be the gravy.
Well, that's right. And what happens is when the economy is robust, people tell me, oh, the phone's ringing off the hook. We don't even have time to follow up. Well, then we become order takers, and we get into this, again, mode of, I don't need to do anything. And I actually heard, okay, so I was at a marketing conference, and I heard someone say that salespeople should not generate their own leads. And I'm just, my jaw dropped. Well, what are we supposed to do? And then they say, we're not good at it. I mean, I was flabbergasted. I just like.
I would argue that they are better at it than most marketing people.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what we're going to focus on, in generating our own qualified leads. And, you know, we look at prospecting, and this guy looks a little bit terrified. And a lot of that is because we think we have to cold call. I want to give you my definition of cold calling. It's a little different than what people might have heard before, and that is,
this is a debatable topic.
Right? You call someone who doesn't know you and doesn't expect your call. So what happens today, Coca, as well, and you've seen it, we all have, you know, we get a name, you know, and we say, oh, you know, we're calling them, we have a name. It's not a cold call. Well, in Joanne Black's definition, it is a cold call, because there's no such thing as a warm call. I hear a lot of people say that. I'm not making a cold call. I'm making a warm call. You know, sales to me is black and white. It's yes or no. Don't give me that fuzzy in between. You know, I'd much rather have a yes than a no, but I'd rather have a no than a maybe. Don't waste my time. So call's either cold or it's hot, and I only want to make hot calls. How do you do that? When someone's been referred to us, they know us, expect our call. Why? Because we get an introduction. We don't just take a name. So, Coca, you could tell me, you know, Joanne, call George. Tell him I told you to call. We've known each other for years. We play golf together. You know, our kids are the same age. Well, probably you don't play golf all the time if you have little kids, but you know what I mean. That you're giving me a name. That's cold. I'm going to.
No, and you know, you being a huge advocate, I mean, for what you're doing. I mean, just the people that you've introduced me to has opened many doors around Social Selling University. I mean, this works, and you know, I see it with other approaches that I take, and then, you know, you've trained our sales team, and seeing how they've learned to leverage their connections to get these introductions. I mean, this is really powerful stuff. You know, as a salesperson, if you don't understand the importance or how much power there is in leveraging your existing network to get these introductions and to get on that first phone call, you're missing out on huge opportunities.
Absolutely. And, you know, some of the questions I get, Coca, are, you know, how do I get that introduction? Well, there's actually three ways. One is phone, and, you know, that's a little old-fashioned. That's why I have an old phone there. But sometimes you're in someone's office, and they just say, well, let me pick up the phone and call them. You know, that's fine. Or you're at someone's house at a backyard barbecue, whatever it is. So phone is one. Many times it makes sense to schedule a personal meeting. What happens many times in financial services, if it's like a parent and kids and you know, family, it makes sense to do that. Or you're local, you know each other well, you get together in person. One of my clients says he has, I think he calls it a 2x2, 2x3, and it doesn't matter. But what he does is he's a banker. When his banker gets together with a prospect or a client, his banker invites someone else that that prospect or client would want to meet, such as an estate attorney, a real estate attorney, a CPA. So they continue to expand their network. How cool is that? So in-person works. The other way,
and I think that's a value add on both parts. I mean, you're obviously meeting people from the industry that you want to talk to, but then you're getting additional exposure, right?
Right. So I'm going ahead of myself. Wait a minute, I got to go back here. You're getting additional exposure, absolutely. Now, email. So email is another way to make an introduction. But here's my caveat. This is what you need to do first. What happens a lot of times today, so I'll give that same example. I'm asking you for an introduction, Coca, and you say, oh, I know George. And you really should talk to George, and we've agreed why it would be important for me to talk to George. And what you do then is you email George, you copy me, and you tell George why he should talk to me. Not good. You need to have that chat with George first. You need to call or email the person first, share with them why you want to have them talk to the person, get their okay. Because if you don't, it's cold. And I've had people say to me, they've received messages like that, either through LinkedIn or through email, and they say they really feel put upon because the other person's assuming that they're going to want to talk to this person. And they may have reasons why they don't want to, but they probably will. Coca, if you took the time to email George or talk to him and say, you know, I'd really like you to talk to Joanne Black, and here's why. Because you've told me that you're really having issues in your company, that salespeople aren't getting the meeting, they're not closing business, they're losing to the competition, their traditional marketing approaches aren't working. Have a conversation and see if there's something that she says that will work for you. And then George says, yeah, I'd really like to do that. Then you send that email, and then what I do is put mutual introduction in the subject line. And I'll say something like, you both know about each other, and I might have to say a few words about each person, how I know them. And then I'll say, I'm going to step out of the picture now and let the two of you connect.
That's actually a really good best practice, because I'm guilty of doing it the other way around, where an employee or somebody will say, will you introduce me to so-and-so that you seem to have a good connection with? And I'll literally just send an email copying both of them with a lot of the same information, but I understand. I never thought of them being put out or feeling pressured to actually make that connection, instead of me just sending a regular email to them initially and just saying, hey, this is what I'd like to do. Would you be okay with that? So that's good information. Well,
here's the other thing, Coco. You miss, and you being all of us, miss the opportunity to reconnect with that person. We're all in a different place every day. I mean, maybe 10 times during a day. And if you haven't spoken to a person in a while, wouldn't it be great to reconnect with them, find out what's going on? You'll continue to expand your connections? Absolutely. So you've missed an opportunity. The you being I've
missed many opportunities.
Yeah, we missed the opportunity. Okay, so that's the point on that. So the email intro, let's take a look then at why referrals are key. What's important. So if we were together in a room and I asked you this question, which I've been asking salespeople for the last 15 years, here's what they've told me. They said, Joanne, when we receive that introduction, we're pre-sold. They know us. They know about us. They want to talk to us. It's amazing that we've earned that credibility and trust. That's one of the hardest things to earn in sales. That our sales time actually shortens. So when we're talking about in the beginning about how can you reduce your prospecting time, absolutely happens because your sales time shortens, which means you have more time then to begin and continue building those referral connections. Competition goes away. Let me chat about this a minute. It doesn't always disappear because we know sometimes a company has to talk to 3 vendors. However, when we've been referred, we have the inside track. We get information nobody else gets. We also have the opportunity to set the criteria by which others are evaluated. And in fact, somebody in one of the groups I was speaking to raised his hand and said, Joanne, I'm talking to my decision maker, but my competition is still trying to figure out who that is. Well, the competition obviously hasn't used Inside View if that's the case, but that's what happens. Our time with our clients increases, and there's no hard cost to referrals. I speak to a lot of CPAs. I said, is there any line item on a financial statement that says referrals? Obviously, the answer is no. So great results from referrals, and it's only your time and referrals budget. You have practically no cost. You might take someone out for coffee, for lunch, for a beer, but you know what? Minimal. So now I have a question to ask you. Think about a time when you have received an introduction to your decision maker. to the person you want to meet, what percent of the time did you get a new client? Was it somewhere between 30 and 50%, 50% plus, 70% plus, 90%, 100%? So just think about in that history, you received the introduction to exactly the person you wanted to meet. And Coca, if you could launch the next poll, and let's see how people vote on this one.
There you go. What percent of the time do you convert a prospect to a customer? I mean, this is going to be really interesting.
Yes.
I would expect the number fairly low. I mean, I guess it depends on the industry. If anybody gives me 100%, I want to know who they are. Have a special talk with them.
I've actually heard that, by the way.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, we're not going to sway the audience. Are we?
No, I plan not to, but if anybody answers 100, they're going to be getting a phone call from me.
Absolutely. We want to know who those people are and what they're doing. All right. So how are we doing on the poll?
It looks like we're still getting a few answers coming in. I have a question for you while the poll is running, though.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that came through in the chat box, it was, you know, how do you know, when it comes to me asking you for a referral to George, you know, because we don't have that, you know, we are all over, you know, you're in New York, I'm in San Francisco, whatever the case may be. We don't really get to talk very often. You know, what is the enticement to you, you know, that you'll actually want to take the time out of your day to help me out? You know, how would you respond to that kind of question?
Yeah, you know, I do get questions like that. Here's the thing. I want everybody to step back and think about times that people have asked them for a referral. I mean, we do referrals all the time in our personal lives, don't we? We're telling somebody about a great restaurant we ate at, a movie we saw. You know, somebody's asked us about a CPA, who's your gardener, who's your plumber, whatever, all the time. Well, in business, we need to come from the perspective that people really do want to help, and they do. Think about if someone's called you and say, hey, you know, I want to put you together with someone. This is a great resource for you, or can you help me out? You do, but obviously you have to know the people. You have to like them, because we only refer good people. People like to put people together. And sometimes the perception is we're asking for a favor, and we're not. We're actually doing a favor for the person. So if you're referring me to George, Coca, and you know George has told you about certain things, and you're asking him to talk to me, you're doing George a favor.
Yes. So these are the poll results.
Okay, I'm not able to see them if you can.
Okay, so you know the results. You know, what percent of the time do you convert a prospect to a customer? The number one answer, 50% of the people responded to 30% of the time they're able to convert. Second place answer is 26%. 26% of the people responded that 50% of the time they're able to, and the number three answer is 70% of the time. So it looks like it ranges between 30 and 70%. Of the time you're able to convert a prospect to a customer, which I think is fairly high. Or am I off base here, Joanne?
No, that is quite high. So when they say 30%, it could be 40, 45%. You know, it's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And, you know, basically there's nothing that comes close to results like that. No sales.
That would be an amazing track record.
It would be. So plus you're continuing to develop relationships. Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's, we talked about conversion of, you know, customers, that was an issue for people. Well, this is how you do it. You convert through referrals. You get the meeting at the level that counts because you get the introduction. The referrals address those two biggest business development challenges. Well, now let's take a look at what you need actually to make that happen. You need a written referral sales plan, weekly written referral goals, and the way it's written, unless you write it, it's not a plan. If you just think about it, it doesn't work. You need ways to track and measure referrals, and you need accountability for results. So you need those four things. I'll repeat: a written referral sales plan, weekly written referral goals, ways to track and measure referrals, and accountability for results. So here's the question. Do you have a targeted strategy with all four of those things? So Coca's going to launch the next poll, because your answer will either be yes or no. Remember, there's no maybes in sales. So Coca, if you could launch the next poll, do you have a targeted referral strategy with a written referral sales plan, weekly written referral goals, methods to track and measure referrals, and accountability for results? So this should be pretty quick. It's either you have it or you don't.
The answers are coming in fast.
I bet they are. I bet they are.
While these are being answered, let me just check in here really quick. Kelly Garber, are you on the phone? All right, Kelly had raised her hand, but maybe she's not ready yet to ask.
Okay. Well, everybody can type their questions in, and if they don't want to speak, and we can certainly answer them that way. All right. Everybody should have voted by now. I mean, this is pretty simple, yes or no. So what are our results?
And this is really no surprise either. Most people do not have a targeted referral strategy. 89% of the people said no. I think which is why it's really great to have you as part of Social Selling University, is that you're able to help educate salespeople on how to build this strategy, right?
Exactly. So it is a strategic initiative. Thank you for saying that. And it starts at the top, where a sales executive will say, this is the way we're going to work. And it's integrated into the sales process, all different things we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So here's the thing. Referrals are common sense. Yeah, everybody says referrals are great, but it's not common practice. So we have this gap. On the one hand, we're saying it's a best business. On the other, we're not doing it all the time. So we need to start working differently. And I do anecdotal research, but a lot of people do the really good stuff. I'm going to share some of it with you. The TAS group does research, and you'll guess why an executive will meet with a salesperson. Replace executive with your decision maker, whatever you want to put in there, CEO, business owner. The first reason is a referral from inside their company. And then there's other issues about the timing's right, they know the organization, and a referral from a trusted source outside their company. There's also a book I'd like to recommend to you called Selling to the C-Suite. And I read a lot of business books, and many of them I just roll my eyes. This one is meaty, excellent examples, and with great research. And they again support through the research that the number one reason an executive will meet with a salesperson is an in-company referral. Second reason is an outside referral. Will they respond to a cold call? No. That's how you reach the C-suite. So get this book. It is worth reading. Selling to the C-Suite by Nicholas A.C. Reed and Dr. Stephen J. Bistritz. Okay, you can find that in your bookstore on Amazon. Go to their website and get it. So one of my colleagues, given that we're a global community, I want to share with you. I have a client who's a Brit who lives in France, and he said, Joanne, I'm going to do a little research about around the world what is happening with referrals. And here's what he shared with me. So don't feel too badly if you answered you don't have all those components of a referral plan, because less than 30% of all salespeople ever ask. So that could be 1%, it could be 29%. I don't know what the number is, but whatever, it's dismal. Because if we don't ask, we don't get. Yet, the preferred prospect is 40 times more likely to buy.
That's amazing.
And then we can earn 4 to 5 times as much. I love that.
I mean, as salespeople, it actually is really confusing to me, because part of being the DNA of a salesperson is being able to ask for the money. I mean, that's one thing in sales, is asking the prospect to sign the check. So good salespeople are really good at this. Building in that value proposition and then getting them to hand the money over. 30% of salespeople, it's just ask for it, right?
Yes, and in a few minutes we'll talk about why that's the case. But you're absolutely right. We'll ask for the money, but we're not asking for referrals. So I want to bring this home for everybody, because if we're not asking for referrals, we're leaving money on the table. We don't want to do that. So either now or later, here's what I'd like you to do. Do the math. What did you make last year? And then I want you to double it. Multiply it by 2. And that could be your goal for 2012. Or you may say, Joanne, that's like a little aggressive. I'm just going to divide that in half. You could do it that way. Or you could say, well, I want to do 20% more or 30% more because I understand that when I get that qualified referral introduction and when I work that way, I get the meeting at the level that counts. I reduce my prospecting time. I increase my close rate. Do the math. Bring it home for
One of the things that came through the chat is really good quote. You get 100% of what you don't ask for. I think that's important to know as well.
Yo, I love that. Okay.
Thanks, Brad, for that one. So one of the other questions that had come up was in regards to inside sales professionals and then the account executives. I mean, yeah. I think that referrals and this methodology works across both sides. The question was, do you need inside salespeople if your account executives can do these referral-based selling? But I think it actually, depending on your company, it could make a huge difference on both sides. Is that right?
It does. I mean, every company needs a multi-pronged approach. So what I'm not saying is to ditch your marketing efforts, what you do on your website, your white papers, your emails, your webinars. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a virus, so my voice is cracking. 1 second. Those need to continue, but it's the proactive outreach that we're missing, and we're missing it in a lot of counts. For inside and outside sales, we need to see where we're connected. And then, especially for inside sales, where are you connected? Who knows whom? You're getting these leads. You're seeing who you need to call. Before you call them, find out how you're connected. I talk to company after company. And the sales executives as a team say, my people never asked me. I know that person. I mean, Coca, you've seen that happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was just going to bring up that we have a case study that is really, it's kind of changing the landscape on how salespeople or sales management and companies manage territories. I mean, when a lead comes in most sales teams, everybody's broken up by territory. You have the Midwest, Southeast, Southwest, whatever the case may be, and you have a territory as a salesperson. What this company did was they turned that upside down, and when new leads come in, they're not giving it to whoever is supposed to manage that territory. They're giving it to the sales rep who has the most connections to that prospect or to that prospect company. And they're seeing that using a sales intelligence application as well as leveraging the connections that you can develop from that they're seeing a much higher return on acquiring new business because they understand that connections mean everything.
Fantastic. And that is going to be a huge competitive advantage for them.
It is a huge competitive advantage for them.
Yeah, I mean, we have that. I mean, I use Insight View all the time. I'll see a client I want to work with. I'll put them in Salesforce. It pops up on my dashboard. I can look at all the people, and then I can see how I'm connected. I just did that last night. Someone offered to refer me to kind of a lower-level person in a company, and this person was just a flake, and I just said, the heck with that. And so I went into Insight View. I saw who the executives were. I went into LinkedIn. I saw how I was connected. My next step is to call these people and first see if they really know them because a lot of people accept every LinkedIn invitation. But I can get all this information. I can get all the industry information now. I know if it's a different industry. I know the questions. I mean, Insight View is giving me the questions to ask. We have all these tools, and we need to be using them before we ever reach out. So
Absolutely.
Long answer to the question, inside sales, outside sales, everybody in the company, it's my belief, is part of the sales team because everybody knows somebody.
Not just the sales team. I mean, everybody, you should be leveraging your connections all the way down to your interns if need be. I mean, getting a referral into a business, regardless of where the person is located in the organization, makes a difference. I mean, we've leveraged the connections from our accounting team from time to time because they have strong personal connections because they went to the same college or whatever, what have you, to get into new businesses. It works.
Well, exactly. I mean, I had a client, and they were starting a commercial division of a bank in San Francisco. They had a retail presence, but not a commercial presence. And so the commercial group was like up upstairs in a building. It was not a storefront. And the head of the team got his team together. It was a small group, maybe 10 to 12 people, explained exactly who they wanted to bring in as customers of the bank. The first referral they received was from the 24-year-old receptionist because his roommate's parents were exact clients for the bank. So, I mean, you don't know who people know, right? You don't know who their neighbors, their brother-in-law is, any of that. I mean, you can find out where they went to school, but what's the other part of their profile? That's why we need to talk to people. So that's great. I love that example, and I'd love to have that white paper, Coco, when it's ready. So let's take a look now at what it takes. I'm going to go through these quickly, and then we'll spend a little time on each one. Referrals need to be a priority, part of our sales process. We need metrics. It's a skill, and we need to increase our comfort level. So it's a priority. You'll notice that word is singular. So we hear so many times, I have so many priorities, I don't know, where to start. Well, you know what? We can only do one thing first. If referrals are a priority, that means that's the way we work all the time, whether we work in a group or whether we sit down one-on-one with clients, whatever our business is. It's part of our sales process. So as salespeople, we don't want something that's extra work. It becomes part of the process. Any time during this process, when you've delivered value, you can ask for a referral. What does value mean? That means your client has said thank you. You've connected them with a resource. They said that's a great idea. You know when that happens. What I don't want you to do is wait till like someplace up here, because a lot of times we'll say, we can't ask here. We can't ask here. No, I better wait till I close the deal. No, I better wait till we implement and get some results. And what happens is you're so far away, from all your people that you've lost the connection. So please, please ask for referrals during your sales process. It's a daily activity. Referrals are something that you do every single day. Now, I have a picture of a treadmill here, not because it's a lot of work. Actually, asking for referrals is a lot less work than running on a treadmill for an hour. But you know what you feel like when you go to the gym? You're energized. It feels terrific. Well, want the same thing. It becomes a habit, a discipline. We are building our referral muscle. Some people say to me, Joanne, when can I just sit back and wait for the phone to ring? Well, I say, when you find out, let me know, because it's our job to be proactive. And then we need to measure referral results. And I'm going to share with you some basic metrics, which you can incorporate in your CRM. I actually was working with a client yesterday. They were using Salesforce.com, and we were talking about how to integrate these referral activities into the CRM, into their activities that was expected, and into how they were going to measure their people. So, of course, the number of people you ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. The number of referrals you receive. The number of referral meetings, and there's really two pieces to that. One is referral meetings you schedule, and then you conduct, because there can be a gap. People are busy, they're on vacation, etc. You can measure your increase in revenue and profits, new client projects, new clients. These are just some of them. I said, do what's simple for you. I'm not about complicated. None of us are. And then it's a skill. So we provide training as part of the referral initiative. It's a piece of it. With building blocks, to be able to learn how to position what you do as different from the competition, to describe your ideal client, and how to ask for and receive those introductions. Now, all of that's pretty straightforward. But here's what people have told me over the years. They say, Joanne, I'm just not comfortable asking for referrals. And Coco, this gets back to the question, why aren't we asking? I've worked with 25, 30-year sales veterans, men, women, people right out of college. It doesn't matter. This is like a human factor, because when we think about it, when we ask for referrals, that's really, really personal. And so what people say to me, they say, well, you know, Joanne, it feels pushy. It feels salesy. I'm not that kind of person. Then some people say it feels like I'm intruding on a relationship, that the relationship is going to shift. I'm asking for help. Yes, you are. And that's fine. You can say, I'd really like you to help me out. We do this all the time. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness. And the biggest fear, though, is they might say no. So what if, Coca, I asked you for a referral, and you say, no, I'm not going to give you one? People are scared of that. Because
you know,
that would be.
This is what surprises me. I mean, these bullet points, I mean, when I think about the DNA of a salesperson, and I talk about this a lot when I do some speaking things, you know, these bullet points are what a salesperson at their core should feel comfortable with, not uncomfortable. They should be able to be assertive. They should be able to feel salesy without really being salesy. I mean, I think that's why it's in quotes. You know, I don't know any successful salesperson that hasn't asked for help. I mean, that's how you get ahead in this world, is by getting people to help you out. I mean, if you're going to put the weight of the world on your shoulders on your own, you're not going to get. How many times are you actually moving prospects into opportunities? I mean, you're getting no all day long. You know, one more no from a connection of yours shouldn't really hurt your feelings, right?
Well, okay, so to address that, first of all, they might say no is a perception. It's a perception because we're only going to be asking people we know. You know, we're not asking a person we met for 30 seconds in a networking event.
True.
When we refer someone, we're putting ourselves on the line, aren't we? So if you refer me, Coca, you have to know that I'm a good person, that I'll follow through, that I'll take care of your clients, your friends, your colleagues, just as you would, that I have a viable service to provide. So that's the person I'm going to ask. People don't say no. In 16 years, I've been working this process. No one has ever said no, but that's a fear. So it's a perception. Another perception is, oh, if I have to ask, that means probably they're going to think my business isn't doing so well, because after all, if I were really successful, I wouldn't have to ask.
I guarantee that Donald Trump and Warren Buffett and all the billionaires out there ask for things on a regular basis. They
do. But everybody is a bit uncomfortable.
I would agree.
They may not be uncomfortable when you get to the point of you saying to me, Joanne, call George. You know, we've known each other for years. You know, I got the name. I can check it off my list. Where the barrier is and the leap is asking for the introduction, because then the perception is, oh, my goodness, I'm asking you to help me. I'm asking you to make a phone call or send an email for me. You're busy. I mean, we just run all this nonsense through our heads, and it's all perception.
And how many times should you go back? I mean, and granted, I mean, I'm guilty of this also. In fact, you know, you just reintroduced me to, you know, somebody that I've, you know, looked up to for the 10 plus years that I've been in sales, Mark Hunter. And we had a communication, and things had dropped off, and then you re-engaged with me and said, hey, you should talk to Mark. I mean, how often should somebody go back and ask again for that referral?
Well, that's, you know, that's up to you. I wouldn't do it too often, but what happens is when you've described who you're looking for and that person's offered to introduce you, and they do, they now know who you're looking for. And they may then, on their own in the future, make more introductions. That's, you know, that's really, really up to you. But that also brings up a good point, Coca, that we don't always have to refer a prospect. We can put people together with resources. I had this happen a couple days ago. I received a message from through LinkedIn from someone who said, so-and-so suggested that the two of us connect. And she explained what she did, and she got requests from people for sales strategy work and sales training, and she didn't do that. And so we're going to talk. So then I emailed the person who referred me, and I thanked her and so forth. And what the person who referred me emailed me back and said, she got the aha that she doesn't always have to refer a prospect or a client, but she can put people together with a resource that's going to be helpful for them. So we're helping each other. That's the umbrella. We're helping each other. So, Coca, I know you can relate to the opposite of this, that all of us who are good salespeople, you know, we ask good questions.
Oh, I'm not a good salesperson. That's why I do webinars now.
But you know people who are, I'm sure, right? I mean,
I know some wonderful salespeople out there.
Yes, I do. So, you know, this is who we are. And we bring our own personality, ourselves to the table. And our colleagues and the people we know well will be glad to help us. And this gets back to a question that was asked in the beginning. When you refer, you're actually helping someone. You're helping the person you're referring, but you're helping the person you're referring that person to, in this case, George. You're doing a favor for George because you're picking someone out of the pack and saying, here should you talk to. You saved him a ton of time and introduced a credible resource, right? You're saving him time. And then you become a resource. So people begin to look at you as this wealth of information and resource about anything. I mean, you'd be surprised at some of the calls I get, you know, because they know I have this huge network. You know, who's your vet? You know, things like that. You know, who's your manicurist? I mean, it's just like crazy questions all the time because.
And do you collect, you know, so at what point does a salesperson that's collecting referrals, should you start, you know, because you're going to start getting, and I'm sure you do a lot because this is your business. I mean, you're getting asked for referrals on a regular basis. You know, do you just say, hey, you know, there's a finder's fee of like $200 for this? I mean, you know, I would think that once people get the memo that you are referring business to other people, that you're just going to start getting requests, you know, out from every angle.
I don't. And it's more like you're having the conversation, and, you know, when you're helping someone else out, and I get this part a lot, they'll say, well, how can I help you? It always goes back the other way because people realize you're helping them out, and they always ask me, how can I help you? And sometimes there isn't anything, you know, and I think that's a great question to ask people. You know, if someone's been kind enough to refer you, you say, well, how can I help you? And again, it may not be a client. It could be a resource. It could be an article. It could be a white paper. It could be anything. It could be, I talked to her several times now, who just had shoulder surgery, which I had in August. And I'm like, I'm totally recovered. She's not. So we have this whole thing about her shoulder now going on. And so we're relating in a different way, and I was giving her tips when she wanted to travel after 4 weeks of things she should do. She found that incredibly helpful. We need to connect with people beyond the business and find the personal ways to connect as well. So do that. No.
Quick introduction or interjection. Is Charlie O'Hanton on the phone?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Do you have a question for Joanne?
Great. The questions really, I think, were sort of briefly touched upon, but I wanted to know, how well do you need to know the person in regards to reach out for a referral? So I understand that you mentioned, you know, as soon as you're going through the sales process, feel free to sort of reach out to that individual. But at some point, don't you need to have a certain level of relationship or trust for the other person to go, okay, I'm putting myself on the line by reaching out to one of my contacts and making a referral for this other person?
So, yes, you do need to know the person. And I think it's very much, you know, when you know someone well. But that kind of, I want to get into kind of the next piece here because there's a group of people that's been totally overlooked about referrals. So let me do that, and let me continue to answer your question.
And then raise your hand again, Charlie, if you have more questions.
Thank you, Charlie. So how do you begin the referral process? Remember I said that generating qualified leads is the most important step. So where do you find referrals? Well, from your current clients. So I mean, this is not a poll, but I'd ask all of you to think about, are you asking your clients for you? When I ask this of salespeople, they kind of put their heads down. They don't want to look me in the face. I actually had a phone interview implementation with a client. I speak to quite a few of the salespeople. And she said, I'm just closing this piece of business. And I said, well, you know, with this new company. And I said, well, who do you know in that company? It was 3 people. She never even thought of it that way before. She thought of it as a company. Who are all your connections within your client companies? Because as Coca mentioned earlier, everybody knows someone. So if you need to be asking your current clients for referrals, and you need to be asking everyone because they know you. I mean, if this is all you do to get started, do this. And then with your colleagues and other people you know, you can get together for coffee. I do this with people. We haven't seen each other in a while. Let's sit down and see how we can help each other. And you're going to have a mutual discussion because, again, you're leaving money on the table if you're not asking your clients to refer you. So, Charlie, I would suggest that's the way you start, and make a list of, write it down, of all your clients. And then what's your strategy for reaching out to them? Now, Coca, I know we're coming to the end of our time together, but I have a couple more things to cover quickly. And one of them is big referral traps to avoid. The first is assuming your clients will refer you. Well, sometimes they do, and that's great. But you know what? They're busy running their own business. And sometimes they may think, well, if I refer you and you get busy, are you going to have enough time for me? So I know you can cut that off at the pass, but don't assume they'll refer you. I had a VP of sales say, Joanne, I forget to ask. I don't think he forgets to ask. I think he's just not comfortable. That's an excuse. I don't buy it. Then the other thing is thinking they don't know.
Do you call him on it when he says things like that?
Yeah,
I forgot to ask you. No, you are just uncomfortable. Deal with it.
Yeah, I did call him on it, actually.
Nice.
I mean, I think I wouldn't let that one slip by. What do you mean you forget to ask? I mean, you can put a sticky on your monitor you don't forget. Don't forget. And then the other thing is, they wouldn't know anyone. And the more sophisticated our solution, and so many of us have very complex solutions, and you think, they wouldn't know anybody. You don't know who people know until you ask. I could spend probably 15 minutes telling you stories of people who've asked their next-door neighbor. One of them who was an elderly grandmother, and my client who was a neighbor saw was the grandchildren coming and the baked cookies and all of that. And I said, ask her. And she asked her, and the grandmother tapped her on the shoulder, put her hand on her shoulder and said, honey, you need to speak to my son. And her son was exactly the person she needed to meet. So don't discount people. And the other trap is not implementing. You say, you're all of you been on this webinar. You're taking away great tips. Now, what are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with them? So it is really time to get started. And I want you to think about this. This is a new way of working. So ask yourself, if I don't, what's the cost of not making the transition? What are you losing or giving up? And then what's the cost of doing nothing? That is a huge question. So will you commit to referral selling? I'm not going to do the poll on this because I have some actions for you to take. And here they are. Put that stake in the ground and say you commit. I want you to do the math and figure out when you adopt a referral strategy, how much more money you're going to make. I want you to set referral goals about the number of people you're going to ask, and ask your current clients. Another action step, I invite you to go to my website. When you register for my Back in the Black newsletter, which is monthly, you'll get my Referral IQ quiz. This is 13 yes or no questions that will take you about 3 minutes to complete. But what this is, it becomes your checklist for referral selling. You're welcome to call or email. We do all of this. Coca, how do we do? I think we talked about conversion, doubling the footprint, certainly prospecting time. Yeah, I think we talked about all of this.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
So remember to, when you get the email follow-up, the ebook will reinforce again how to make referral selling work for you. And I would say if you have a sales team and want to chat with me about a referral initiative for your company anywhere in the world, you can email or call me. And my website is nomorecoldcalling.com. And remember that referrals are gold. They are your hottest leads. They're your qualified leads. When you start working a referral process, you will be energized. You'll get the meeting at the level that counts, and you will convert your prospects to clients at an unheard of rate. It's not too good to be true. It works. Right, Coca?
Oh, it works. It amazes me that more and more salespeople don't understand how to leverage your network to get into more accounts and to penetrate deeper into the accounts you're already working with. It is really powerful stuff.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody who asked questions, right? I think this was great, and if you have more questions, email me, Joanne, at nomorecoldcalling.com, or give me a call.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, and everybody, thank you for your time today on today's Social Selling University webinar. Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up, and there will be a recording of this webinar being emailed out to everyone. So with that, thank you so much, Joanne. It's always an educational experience to have you as a part of these webinars, and based on the feedback so far, everybody seems to have enjoyed the content that you've got.
Thank you, Coca.